Right, we're reaching the end of the Arabic hidden words, and we have a single hidden word here that sounds a theme which, as Baha'u'llah tells us, is the central theme of the revelation. And even though it only has one specific hidden word on this theme, and it comes late in the Arabic hidden words, it's a great one. And to my knowledge, this is the first reference in Baha'u'llah's writings to this principle, because the hidden words, it's one of his earliest tablets, so this would be one of the earliest references to the oneness of humanity. And it becomes more and more central to Baha'u'llah's writings more in the Akka period, and seemingly less central in the Baghdad period. For example, if you read the Kitab-i-Iqan, you read the Seven Valleys, like where do you find the oneness of humanity stated as a social principle? Baha'u'llah is more concerned in those early years with establishing the principle of the unity of religion, the continuity of divine revelation, the oneness of the prophets, and so forth. And he reserves till later in his ministry to expound the social principles of his faith. But nevertheless, here we find a beautiful statement of this central principle, followed as before by many, many beautiful quotations from Baha'u'llah's writings and Abdu'l-Baha's writings, primarily on this principle and its centrality. So, as before, let's just read them and kind of marinate in them and meditate on them. If Catherine were here, she would find a nice bit of music to play in the background. But she might be here before we finish and kick something off. So, and I think in a way it's a very simple. I mean, it's the simplest topic because, I mean, it's very clearly stated, and how many angles can you find on this? But we'll see what we come up with after reading these. O children of men, know ye not why we created you all from the same dust, that no one should exalt himself over the other. Ponder at all times in your hearts how ye were created. Since we have created you all from one same substance, it is incumbent on you to be even as one soul, to walk with the same feet, eat with the same mouth, and dwell in the same land, that from your inmost being, by your deeds and actions, the signs of oneness and the essence of detachment may be made manifest. Such is my counsel to you, O concourse of light. Heed ye this counsel, that ye may obtain the fruit of holiness from the tree of wondrous glory.
It is not for him to pride himself who loveth his own country, but rather for him who loveth the whole world. The earth is but one country, and mankind its citizens.
God grant that the light of unity may envelop the whole earth, and that the seal, the kingdom is God's, may be stamped upon the brow of all his peoples.
The most glorious fruit of the tree of knowledge is this exalted word of one tree. For all ye the fruit, and of one bough the leaves. Let not man glory in this, that he loveth his country. Let him rather glory in this, that he loveth his kind.
O well-beloved ones, the tabernacle of unity hath been raised. Regard thee not one another as strangers. Ye are the fruits of one tree and the leaves of one branch. Say, O people, walk ye neath the shadow of justice and truthfulness, and seek ye shelter within the tabernacle of unity.
I'll get it for you.
The first utterance of him who is the all-wise is this: O children of dust, turn your faces from the darkness of estrangement to the effulgent light of the day star of unity. This is that which above all else will benefit the peoples of the earth.
This wronged one testifieth that the purpose for which mortal men have from utter nothingness stepped into the realm of being is that they may work for the betterment of the world and live together in concord and harmony.
This people, the Baha'is, have never been, nor are they now, inclined to mischief. Their hearts are illumined with the light of the fear of God and adorned with the adornment of his love. Their concern hath ever been and now is for the betterment of the world. Their purpose is to obliterate differences and quench the flame of hatred and enmity, so that the whole earth may come to be viewed as one country.
With the utmost unity and in a spirit of perfect fellowship, exert yourselves that ye may be enabled to achieve that which beseemeth this day of God. Verily I say, strife and dissension, and whatsoever the mind of man abhorreth, are entirely unworthy of his station.
It beseemeth all men in this day to take firm hold on the most great name, and to establish the unity of all mankind.
He who is your Lord, the all-merciful, cherisheth in his heart the desire of beholding the entire human race as one soul and one body.
O contending peoples and kindreds of the earth, set your faces towards unity, and let the radiance of its light shine upon you. Gather ye together, and for the sake of God resolve to root out whatever is the cause of contention amongst you. Then will the effulgence of the world's great luminary envelop the whole earth, and its inhabitants become the citizens of one city and the occupants of one and the same throne. This wronged one hath, ever since the early days of his life, cherished none other desire but this, and will continue to entertain no wish except this wish. Cleave unto that which draweth you together and uniteth you.
That which the Lord hath ordained as the sovereign remedy and mightiest instrument for the healing of all the world is the union of all the peoples in one universal cause, one common faith. This can in no wise be achieved except through the power of a skilled and all-powerful and inspired physician. Each time that most mighty instrument hath come, each time that most mighty instrument hath come, and that light shone forth from the ancient dayspring, he was withheld from ignorant physicians, who, even as clouds, interposed themselves between him and the world. It failed before to recover, and its sickness hath persisted until this day. They indeed were powerless to protect it or to effect a cure, whilst he who hath been the manifestation of power amongst men was withheld from achieving his purpose by reason of what the hands of the ignorant physicians have wrought.
The well-being of mankind is peace and security, are unattainable unless there is unity. Unless and unity. I can't read today. Are unattainable unless and until its unity is firmly established. This unity can never be achieved so long as the counsels which the pen of the Most High revealed are suffered to pass unheeded. Through the power of the words he hath uttered, the whole of the human race can be illumined with the light of unity.
That all nations should become one in faith, and all men as brothers, that the bonds of affection and unity between the sons of men should be strengthened, that diversity of religion should cease, and differences of race be annulled. What harm is there in this? Yet so it shall be. These fruitless strifes, these ruinous wars shall pass away, and the most great peace shall come.
We have created you from one tree and have caused you to be as the leaves and fruit of the same tree, that haply ye may become a source of comfort to one another. Regard ye not others save as ye regard your own selves, that no feeling of aversion may prevail amongst you, so as to shut you out from him whom God shall make manifest on the day of resurrection. It behooveth you all to be one indivisible people. Thus should ye return unto him whom God shall make manifest.
The blessed beauty saith, Ye are the fruits of one tree, the leaves of one branch. Thus hath he likened this world of being to a single tree, and all its peoples to the leaves thereof, and the blossoms and fruits. It is needful for the bough to blossom, and leaf to fruit, and fruit to flourish. And upon the interconnection of all parts of the world tree dependeth the flourishing of leaf and blossom, and the sweetness of the fruit. For this reason all human beings powerfully sustain one another and seek for everlasting life. And for this reason must the lovers of God in this contingent world become the mercies and the blessings sent forth by the clement King of the seen and unseen realms. Let them purify their sight and behold all humankind as leaves and blossoms and fruits of the tree of being. Let them at all times concern themselves with doing a kindly thing for one of their fellows, offering to someone love, consideration, thoughtful help.
For none is self-sufficiency any longer possible, inasmuch as political ties unite all peoples and nations, and the bonds of trade and industry, of agriculture and education are being strengthened every day. Hence, the unity of all mankind can in this day be achieved. Verily, this is none other but one of the wonders of this wondrous age, this glorious century. Of this, past ages have been deprived.
Strive thee with all your hearts. Raise up your voices and shout, until this dark world be filled with light, and this narrow place of shadows be widened out, and this dust heap of a fleeting moment be changed into a mirror for the eternal gardens of heaven, and this globe of earth receive its portion of celestial grace. Then will aggression crumble away, and all that maketh for disunity be destroyed, and the structure of oneness be raised, that the blessed tree may cast its shade over east and west, and the tabernacle of this singleness of man be set up on the high summits, and flags be broken, love and fellowship flutter from their staffs around the world, until the sea of truth lift high its waves, and earth bring forth the roses and sweet herb of blessings without end, and become from pole to pole the Alpha paradise.
Perchance will the lovers of God succeed in upraising the banner of human unity, so that the one-colored tabernacle of the kingdom of heaven will cast a sheltering shadow over all the earth, that misunderstandings among the world peoples will vanish away, that all nations will mingle with one another, dealing with one another, even as a lover with his beloved.
Today, the most remarkable favor of God centereth around union and harmony among the friends. So, this is unity and concord may be the cause of the promulgation of the oneness of the world of humanity, may emancipate the world from the intense darkness of enmity and rancor, that the sun of truth may shine in full and perfect effulgence.
In every century, a particular and central theme is, in accordance with the requirements of that century, confirmed by God. In this illumined age, that which is confirmed is the oneness of the world of humanity. Every soul who serveth this oneness will undoubtedly be assisted and confirmed.
In every dispensation, the light of divine guidance has been focused upon one central theme. In this wondrous revelation, this glorious century, the foundation of the faith of God and the distinguishing feature of his law is the consciousness of the oneness of mankind.
Wherefore must the friends of God with utter sanctity, with one accord, rise up in the Spirit, in unity with one another to such a degree that they will become even as one being and one soul. On such a plane as this, physical bodies play no part. Rather doth the Spirit take over and rule, and when its power encompasseth all, then is spiritual union achieved. Strive ye by day and night to cultivate your unity to the fullest degree. Let your thoughts dwell on your own spiritual development and close your eyes to the deficiencies of other souls. Act ye in such wise, showing forth pure and goodly deeds, and modesty and humility, that ye will cause others to be awakened.
The cause of the ancient beauty is the very essence of love and the very channel of oneness, existing only that all may become the waves of one sea, and bright stars of the same endless sky, and pearls within the shell of singleness, and gleaming jewels quarried from the mines of unity, that they may become servants one to another, adore one another, bless one another, praise one another, that each one may lose his tongue and extol the rest without exception. Each one voice his gratitude to all the rest. That all should lift up their eyes to the horizon of glory and remember that they are linked to the holy threshold, that they should see nothing but good within one another, hear nothing but praise of one another, and speak no word of one another, save only to praise.
What a blessing that will be when all shall come together, even as one separate torrents, rivers and streams, running brook and single drops, when collected together in one place, will form a mighty sea. And to such a degree will the inherently unity of all prevail, that the traditions, rules, customs, and distinctions in the fanciful life of these populations will be effaced and vanish away like isolated drops, once the great sea of oneness doth leap and surge and roll.
Today, the one overriding need is unity and harmony among the beloved of the Lord. For they should have among them but one heart and soul, and should, so far as in them lieth, unitedly withstand the hostility of all the peoples of the world. They must bring to an end the benighted prejudices of all nations and religions, and must make known to every member of the human race that all are the leaves of one branch, the fruits of one bough. Until such time, however, as the friends established, does that make sense? Yeah. However, as the friends establish perfect unity among themselves, how can they summon others to harmony and peace? Well, okay.
until such time as they,
Yeah.
until they establish harmony among themselves, how
So
can
we
they
get it among
establish?
ourselves. We
Yeah.
can't help anybody else.
Yeah.
We need a new editor.
The page break was a little funny.
And among the teachings of Baha'u'llah is the oneness of the world of humanity, that all human beings are the sheep of God, and He is the kind shepherd. This shepherd is kind to all the sheep, because He created them all, trained them, provided for them, and protected them. There is no doubt that the shepherd is kind to all the sheep, and should there be among these sheep ignorant ones, they must be educated. If there be children, they must be trained until they reach maturity. If there be sick ones, they must be cured. There must be no hatred and enmity, for as by a kind physician these ignorant sick ones should be treated.
Unity is the expression of the loving power of God and reflects the reality of divinity. When this human body politic reaches a state of absolute unity, the effulgence of the eternal sun will make its fullest light and heat manifest. The more love is expressed among mankind and the stronger the power of unity, the greater will be this reflection and revelation. For the greatest bestowal of God is love.
The most important principle of divine philosophy is the oneness of the world of humanity, the unity of mankind, the bond conjoining East and West, the tie of love which blends human hearts.
When the racial elements of the American nation unite in actual fellowship and accord, the lights of the oneness of humanity will shine. The day of eternal glory and bliss will dawn. The Spirit of God encompass, and the divine favors descend.
His second principle is the oneness of mankind, that all men are the sheep of God, and God is their loving shepherd, caring most tenderly for all without favoring one or another. No difference canst thou see in the creation of God, of the God of mercy. All are His servants, all implore His grace.
The second teaching of Baha'u'llah is the oneness of the world of humanity. Every human creature is the servant of God. We must associate with all humanity in gentleness and kindness. We must love all with love of the heart. Some are ignorant. They must be trained and educated. One is sick, he must be healed. Another is a child. He must assist him to attain maturity. We must not detest him who is ailing. Either shun him, scorn or curse him, but care for him, and with utmost kindness and tenderness. An infant must not be treated with disdain simply because it is an infant. Our responsibility is to train, educate, and develop it in order that it may advance towards maturity.
The second teaching of Baha'u'llah concerns the unity of mankind. All are the servants of God and members of one human family. God has created all, and all are His children. He rears, nourishes, provides for, and is kind to all. Why should we be unjust and unkind? This is the policy of God, the lights of which have shone throughout the world. His sun bestows its effulgence unsparingly upon all. His clouds send down rain without distinction or favor. His breezes refresh the whole earth. It is evident that humankind, without exception, is sheltered beneath His mercy and protection. Some are imperfect, they must be perfected. The ignorant must be taught, the sick healed, the sleepers awakened. The child must not be oppressed or censured because it is undeveloped. It must be patiently trained. The sick must not be neglected because they are ailing. Nay, rather, we must have compassion upon them and bring them healing. Briefly, the old conditions of animosity, bigotry, and hatred between the religious systems must be dispelled, and the new conditions of love, agreement, and spiritual brotherhood be established among them.
The second teaching of Baha'u'llah is the principle. Wait a minute. Paragraph before said the second
I know.
teaching.
Several of them.
Several of them have.
Okay. The second teaching of Baha'u'llah is the principle of the oneness of the world of humanity. God is one. His servants are likewise one. God has created all. He is kind to all. Inasmuch as he is such a tender father to all, why should his children disagree? Why should they war and fight? Like the Heavenly Father, we must live in love and unity. Man is the temple of God, the image and likeness of the Lord. Surely if one should destroy the temple of God, he will incur the displeasure of the Creator. For this reason, we must live together in amity and love. Baha'u'llah has addressed the world of humanity, saying, "Verily ye are the fruits of one tree and the leaves of one branch." This signifies that the entire world of humanity is one tree. The various nations and peoples are the branches of that tree. Individual members of mankind are represented by the twigs and blossoms. Why should these parts of the same tree manifest strife and discord toward each other?
So what's the first teaching of Baha'u'llah?
He hasn't said.
The oneness of God or religion, I don't know.
In each case, it's the independent investigation of reality.
Oh, okay.
That's how the Baha'i usually lists them. And then what would number 3 be? The oneness of religion.
Okay.
Baha'u'llah has proclaimed the oneness of the world of humanity. He has caused various nations and divergent creeds to unite. He has declared the differences of race and color is like the variegated beauty of flowers in a garden. If you enter a garden, you will see yellow, white, blue, red flowers in profusion and beauty, each radiant within itself, and although different from the others, lending its own charm to them. Racial difference in the human kingdom is similar. If all the flowers in a garden were of the same color, the effect would be monotonous and wearying to the eye. Therefore, Baha'u'llah has said that the various races of humankind lend a composite harmony and beauty of color to the whole. Let all associate, therefore, in this great human garden, even as flowers grow and blend together side by side without discord or disagreement between them.
It is our duty in this radiant century to investigate the essentials of divine religion, seek the realities underlying the oneness of the world of humanity, and discover the source of fellowship and agreement, which will unite mankind in the heavenly bond of love. This unity is the radiance of eternity, the divine spirituality, the effulgence of God, and the bounty of the kingdom.
The teachings specialized in Baha'u'llah are addressed to humanity. He says, "Ye are the leaves of one tree." He does not say, "Ye are the leaves of two trees," one divine, the other satanic. He has declared that each individual member of the human family is a leaf or branch upon the Adamic
Tree of Adam, yeah.
tree. That all are sheltered beneath the protecting mercy of the providence of God. That all are the children of God, fruit upon with the one tree of his love. God is equally compassionate and kind to all the leaves, branches, and fruit of the tree.
The first principle of his mission and teaching was the oneness of the world of humanity. His second announcement was the investigation of reality. And the third was the oneness of the foundation of the divine religions.
The underlying foundation upon which the kingdom rests is love. and this must be securely established among the friends and must be widely spread so that it may become the cause of the establishment of the oneness of mankind. This love must be so intensified among the friends as to make of them true servants of one another, expending their wealth and sacrificing their lives for one another and consecrating their being to the existence of other souls. Then ye shall observe how people will flock and gather under the shade of the pavilion of the oneness of mankind.
Let there be no mistake. The principle of the oneness of mankind, the pivot round which all the teachings of Baha'u'llah revolve, is no mere outburst of ignorant emotionalism or an expression of vague and pious hope. Its message is applicable not only to the individual, but concerns itself primarily with the nature of those essential relationships that must bind all the states and nations as members of one human family. It does not constitute merely the enunciation of an ideal, but stands inseparably associated with an institution adequate to embody its truth, demonstrate its validity, and perpetuate its influence. It implies an organic change to the structure of present-day society, a change such as the world has not yet experienced. It represents the consummation of human evolution, an evolution that has had its earliest beginnings in the birth of family life, its subsequent development in the achievement of tribal solidarity, leading in turn to the constitution of the city-state, and expanding later into the institution of independent and sovereign nations. The principle of the oneness of mankind, as proclaimed by Baha'u'llah, carries with it no more and no less than a solemn assertion that attainment to this final stage in this stupendous evolution is not only necessary but inevitable, that its realization is fast approaching, and that nothing short of a power that is born of God can succeed in establishing it.
Acceptance of the oneness of mankind is the first fundamental prerequisite for reorganization and administration of the world as one country, the home of humankind. Universal acceptance of this spiritual principle is essential to any successful attempt to establish world peace. It should therefore be universally proclaimed, taught in schools, and constantly asserted in every nation as preparation for the organic change in the structure of society which it implies. In the Baha'i view, recognition of the oneness of mankind calls for no less than the reconstruction and the demilitarization of the whole civilized world, a world organically unified in all the essential aspects of its life, its political machinery, its spiritual aspiration, its trade and finance, its script and language, and yet infinite in the diversity of the national characteristics of its federated units.
This is mine, that is his, say the small-minded. The wise believe that the entire world is a family.
So that's the jump from the most recent statement of the House of Justice in 1985 to the most ancient one from the Upanishads.
Wow.
So the idea of the oneness of humanity is quite an ancient one.
Well, at least one of the questions that came up at the dinner table was answered here. Perhaps all of them. But someone said, how will it ever happen that the faith will grow, really grow? And it's in this paragraph right here. the underlying foundation upon which the kingdom rests is love. And this must be securely established among the friends and must be widely spread so that it may become the cause of the establishment of the oneness of mankind. This love must be so intensified among the friends as to make them true servants of one another. Oh wait, that's not the one I want.
No, that's the one.
Oh, it is.
That's the one,
I'm
yeah.
almost there.
He's getting there.
Yeah, expending their lives, their wealth, and sacrificing their lives for one another, and consecrating their being to the existence of other souls. Then ye shall observe how people will flock and gather under the shade of the pavilion of the oneness of mankind.
Yeah,
So there
That's
it
the
is.
prerequisite.
yeah,
There it
that's
is.
it.
I'm not sure we've reached that prerequisite.
No.
Where is
You're
that
not
one?
sure? I'm positive.
Pretty sure, yeah.
Middle of page 5.
Considering that we're not seeing much in the way of flocking at the moment, I'd say that's clear evidence.
Pretty clear evidence.
A lot of sheep references.
Yeah.
Some must be sheared.
Well, and that was an answer to the, we were talking about how, when people have such a different perspective on politics or whatever, how do we learn how to live together and he talks about, there are all these passages by Abdu'l-Baha about what to do if someone, some of them seem like you could be condescending, like, oh, this person is really just very childish, in their view, but I'm sure that's not what he meant, but basically, that if somebody has a view that seems like it's not looking in the right direction, how do we approach that? And
So to educate them.
right,
Doesn't say to criticize them.
right.
But more importantly, it says to love them.
To love them,
Well,
educate them.
But you
Not
can
criticize
imagine.
them.
But you can imagine you'd probably you can what is it? Attract more bees with honey. Is that-
It's actually flies, but
Is
I
it
like
flies?
bees.
well, some of them are flies. Yeah, some of them.
Worker flies.
But that we had this discussion a few weeks back about all you need is love, and it may not be that all you need is love. It's that's the prerequisite to everything else. Like if that's not there, all these other things become
I think
ineffective.
nothing will work.
Yeah,
So the Beatles had it right all along.
Yep.
yeah,
The Beatles were right.
yeah.
Yes, they were. So I'm really glad you reread it because that's probably my favorite quotation from the whole compilation. How do we create communities in which everyone is consecrated to the other? How do you do that?
Baha'is kind of do that, don't they?
Well, we're trying.
Well, yeah, I feel like we have glimmerings of it, that we do. We care for each other. We love each other. If we're aware of something someone needs. I think about this tiny thing. That time when the parts of my shed were delivered and put on in front of the house, and I had no way of getting them off the street into the backyard where they could be. I didn't know what to do. I was like looking at it, I was trying to pick things up and they were too big, and so I texted the assembly, and within 30 minutes there were 8 or 9 people there helping me, and it was all just done in such a short period of time. It was really overwhelming, and I know it seems like a small thing, but
Yeah.
It's our version of the Amish barn raising.
yeah. It meant so much to me, that
That's why it wasn't.
I
a small
felt
thing.
I felt completely alone,
Yeah.
but I reached out, and it was just like instantaneous, this outpouring of assistance.
I also think that depends on our perspective. Like sometimes I'm I don't know, maybe not surprised, but when you hear people who are outside the faith and they see the Baha'is and they start talking about the way Baha'is are, And I've never been in a group of people who love each other so much and unconditionally and all these things. And I'm going, really? Wow, yeah.
We do?
Yeah. I mean, but the thing is we probably can't
take
see
it for granted
because we're
yeah.
so close to it, and yet yeah, we have a lot more to learn, but we're at least we're in a place where it's happening, and we're trying, and apparently we are, many times doing a very good job because people comment on it,
I mean, the Baha'is are a pretty diverse group of people. I mean, they're diverse, yet we get along.
We do take that for granted.
We do take it for granted,
Yeah.
and it's not normal.
It should be.
Yeah, and I didn't grow. I mean, I guess I did grow up in the world, but I'm not in a community that I've always been a Baha'i. So I didn't live, for instance, in a church community where it was sort of. I've gone to a few churches, and I did notice, wow, everybody's the same here. People sort of dress the same. They look like they're in the same social status. They of the same race for the most part. And so then I started noticing, oh wow, the Baha'i faith really is, our community really is different. But I didn't know it was any different because I took it for granted, But and yeah, we need more. We need more diversity, and we need to learn how to be more welcoming to everyone. But yeah, I think we're heading in the right direction anyway. But I also think that the oneness of humanity is one of those things that represents itself both in those types of ways, just the way people get along and love each other. But I think it's also a much more, and I kind of was hoping you had something that was more intangible and more mystical, because I really think the oneness of humanity comes down to something that is extremely deep that we don't really grasp yet. Of course, we have the nuts and bolts to worry about right now, but I'm fascinated when I think about what the oneness of humanity truly means on a whole nother level,
Yeah, we can understand it at a pragmatic level. If we don't find a way to work and act coherently, then we're not going to survive, so we need to act together. So there's oneness at that level. And then like one level deeper, there's oneness at the level of, well, we all share the same genetics, and we're all physically one in that scientific sense of the word. And there's only one race of humans. But then one level deeper than that is the idea that we're all united because we all carry that divine spark within, the spark of that makes the human soul sacred, and we're united in that sacredness. And maybe even one level deeper below that, like the real mystical unity, is that there is only God, and we are all temporary expressions of the one God in the eternal process of loving its own essence.
Yeah.
And that's where I think that's where everyone ends up landing. If you go to the end of the rabbit hole of any mystical tradition from the East or West, I think you're going to end up in that same kind of realization that it's all one, and that our separation from each other is part of the veil of Maya, to go back to the Upanishads and the ancient Hindu idea of there's a veil cast over the world that temporarily blinds us to the unity that underlies everything.
So are you suggesting that Baha'u'llah was a Sufi, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is just, but his faith is really just a modern day Sufi? Is that what you're saying?
Well, what did he say in the Kitab Yaqdas? This is the changeless faith of God, eternal in the past, eternal in the future. Let him who seeketh attain it.
Okay.
He doesn't claim that it's something brand new. He doesn't claim that there's some fundamentally different message. He said there's only one changeless thing. It's the law of love, and the law of love is expressed in all the faiths and all the religions. So the only thing that's changed is the only thing that's really changed is the outer form of it, which changes in accordance with exigencies of the day. So why not? Yeah.
Okay. The one thing that I was interested here, the word unity is used so much in the Baha'i faith, right? I mean, that is the Baha'i faith.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about unity.
Mm-hmm.
And growing up, not growing up as a Baha'i, I was growing up when I became a Baha'i. Still, unity always meant sameness, right? Unity, sameness. Somehow you get that mixed up in your head. And I don't think that's at all what unity means. It's not sameness. It doesn't mean
Absence of different opinions.
we're not gonna come to an agreement on what is whatever is, right? But unity requires us to be unified, even though we see the world in different set of glasses, different culture, different understandings of the way things are.
In a way, I think of unity as an extraordinarily powerful tool. And as a tool, it can be, double-edged. It can be used for the wrong reasons, this tool, this principle of unity. It can be used to extinguish difference and diversity of view. It can be used to suppress the legitimate expression of others. Under the name of unity, it's very easy to do very bad things. So one has to, I think, be very careful and nuanced in how one understands and read these writings in a very nuanced way, because you can lift out one or a handful of these quotations out of the context of all the rest of the writings and come up with the conclusion that the unity we're talking about is a unity in which all religious diversity ceases, everyone becomes members of, everyone has the same opinions about things, everyone, a kind of unity and uniformity. If you can very easily, I think, selectively quote from these to come to that conclusion. But in the course of doing that, you're going to be leaving out all these other wonderful quotations that specify that this is a unity and diversity that's being talked about. And that quotation, that early Tablet of Baha'u'llah that you were referring to at dinner also, where he says that the diversity, there will be as many views as there are human beings, and that this is certain and subtle and can no wise be altered, and that's the reality that we work within. And so where do we go from there? Kindness, forbearance, loving, solicitude, forgiveness, all of these divine virtues to reach the point of unity, not forcing others to fit into the mold that we think they ought to fit into. But it's so easy to fall into that. It's almost like it's the gravitational well is and the easiest place to go, because it's just a lot easier if everyone in say a church has the same background and wears the same stuff, and it's just so much easier to do community that way. And it's so much infinitely harder to do community when you have real diversity. But that's what we're being called to do.
It also, I think, requires everyone has to have some humility, because if you're sure that your opinion is the right one, then what else can you do?
What's the point? What's the point?
But make sure everyone agrees with you, right? It's like, because they're just wrong. And so if everyone has to have the ability to recognize that that they don't necessarily have all the answers, or and I don't see how else it could happen.
And I think there's also a degree to which that friction is actually the opportunity for growth. Mm-hmm. That it's almost a requirement, like if you're bodybuilding, if you keep lifting the same weights, your muscles don't tear, but it's the tearing that actually builds your muscle. And I think that idea of something kind of being a little bit broken up and torn apart, maybe what we would think of as damaged, is actually opportunity. And
a little chaos.
And then I think it's a requirement for spiritual growth. And obviously I'm not saying we have to cause it. There's plenty there without us doing anything. But there's a degree to which sometimes those opposite poles help us talk about things and bring bring in some more ideas. That spark actually is opportunity. That if we were all complacent or just didn't care, nothing would happen. So I think it's almost a requirement that there be some, not a lack of unity, but in order for the refinement of unity, there has to be some sort of friction and some sort of opposite.
It's all by design. I mean, it's like you must have, the world must have complete diversity of people and of thoughts in order for all the Baha'i principles to be, to be used to put them back together again.
Actually, it's true. I think for all of them to be operationalized, you actually have to have opposing thoughts and opinions.
Yeah.
Well, this is known to every story writer in Hollywood. Every hero needs a foil.
Yeah.
You don't have a good story unless there's some point of tension.
It's all a test. We're being tested all the time. And this is everyone's test.
Yeah. Is it through the clash of differing opinions comes the spark of truth?
Yeah.
And so, if you're searching for truth, you need to have that clash, and that's the goal, Otherwise, you have falsehood, conjecture, and if you don't, then that's why it's important that we speak our truth, our thoughts, and also be willing to let go of them. To make progress, to find what the truth is. And I think a lot of times we don't do that because we're afraid of the truth, in certain situations.
What happens? This is opening up a big Pandora's box. But what happens when some ideas are seductively wrong? And if you open up, if you open up a totally free marketplace of people to say these ideas, and certain ideas which are seductively wrong are going to be taken up by a large fraction of the populace. So what does one do? I mean, does one just take the stance that every single idea it can be equally expressed, and you just hope that in the marketplace of ideas, the right ideas eventually win the day? Is that the lesson that we've learned over the last few years in our own social media environment, our own politics? Yeah. Or do you?
But it's also not a free market. We've had this discussion many times before.
Yeah.
What we have right now is not a free market of ideas.
No, because
it is
you have
not
all sorts
one
of
in
people
which
censoring ideas and saying you can't.
It is not
say
one in
this
which all the ideas get to float to the top. That's not true.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
as much as humanity has ever had. I mean, the fact that anyone with a Twitter account can broadcast their thought.
Yes.
That's pretty unique in human history.
Yeah. That's a different argument. What I'm saying is it's not all equal, and not everyone has an equal voice, and not all of the ideas float to the top. It is true that more ideas than at any time before, more opportunities for more people to share is true. But it is not true that all voices get to float to the top at the same pace and equal measure. It's just not.
And are the things that we're talking about, where do out and out lies, purposeful lies, that's my idea, and the person knows, they're lying. When that starts getting into the mix, that's a different dynamic than we're all trying to look for, have the same goal, something to improve things, let's say, and and yet people have very different ideas about what's going to get us there. To me, those are healthy clashes. But when people are infiltrating into it for their own purposes, I don't know, I think hopefully that becomes evident. And if people go along with it, I guess the thing is it may take a long time for it to be clear that this was really the wrong idea.
Yeah.
When damage starts happening, well, that's how you learn. You learn the hard way sometimes.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's just the way of the world, that we can't avoid
bad
stupid
actors.
Yeah, we can't avoid stupidity and all of that stuff. And sometimes people go along with it, and then they learn, we should have spoken up, or we should have questioned, or and yet sometimes it causes death and destruction. On that level.
I think lies are a lot easier. Is not the big problem. because it's pretty easy when someone lies. It's relatively easy to find out what the truth is, and particularly if you in the internet and stuff. If a lie is said, it's pretty easy for people to say, no, here's the facts. The problem is not lies, it's deception. And people, and I hate to say this, but politicians are good at deception without ever saying a lie. And they know what they're doing. I mean, they're purposefully deceiving you by never saying a lie. It's what they don't say is important. When you leave out important, critical information, knowing that that critical piece of information is necessary for you to truly understand what's going on, that's deception. And that's harder for people to discover what really is going on. So when you have to say, kids are good at this. You learn that as a kid, right? Don't lie to mom and dad. But actually you leave out important pieces of information. You know? No, I didn't hit him. I tricked him. But we're not going to talk about that. Right? I started the fight, but I'm not going to bring that up. You know? Deception. In other words, get your mom and dad to believe something that really isn't true by not lying. That's always been my big thing. Is that it's not the lie that bothers me as much as the deception.
I also just see people lying.
Well,
and acting like it's true.
But
like,
it's
like
easier.
straight up
Realizing
lying,
that if they say it enough,
and they say it
becomes
enough,
accepted as
they
true.
repeat it enough, it becomes people believe it's true. And that is psychologically, in 3 studies, been shown to be true. Like, that's what people do.
Yeah.
And then people begin to question when somebody is telling the truth, they begin to question the truth teller.
My partner at work had a saying, in work. I like to repeat because he was right. He would say to somebody, look, if you lie to me once, just once, I now know that I can't trust anything that you say. Forevermore, I always have to question, are you telling me the truth now or are you lying to me? I'll never know. I'll always have to guess. He says, don't ever lie to me. That was his line. We lost a lot of work because you just lied to me. No, I can't trust you.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's, I guess, where the Baha'is try to solve this problem through principles of consultation. I guess that's the Baha'i effort to navigate these treacherous waters of difference of opinion, of good faith mixed with bad faith, of trying to come at the truth when not everyone is equally committed to it. But it seems that at least as far as Baha'i consultation is concerned, the sort of consultation that would take place on an elected assembly seems to be predicated on good faith. You know, it's easy to derail, I think, a consultation if one is acting in bad faith. That's kind of the ground truth that has to be there for it to work, for you to be able to work out, to get to a point of unity despite diversity of opinions, is there has to be a kind of sense that everyone is acting in good faith. Everyone is legitimately trying to get to the truth of things and putting it in the center of the table and figuring out what it is.
Yeah.
And that's not what we see in the
critical part of that, as you well know, because you put it out there, you have to let go.
Yeah, that's
the
the hardest piece.
Well, the premise to begin with in most negotiations are self-interest, and everything you do is for self-interest or the interest of your constituents who voted you into that space. And in a Baha'i administrative order, that's not even delegates to the national. They are not there representing the people who voted for them. That's not what they're there for. And so it's a whole nother dynamic, and yet we still kind of fall into old world behaviors. We haven't learned to really consult in the way that when you look at what consultation actually is and the prerequisites to it, it's a very spiritual institution. It's not just a mechanical one. And it requires love.
You bring up a really interesting, I never thought of it before. You know, how you run a government like this one. Right now, we hire representatives that are supposed to represent what his opinion is is a collection of what we think in his community,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to electing a representative based not on their political views, but based upon the quality of who they are as a human being, and that they will make good decisions based upon their intellect and their humanity, their
Yeah.
Following their own moral lights
It's
as
a
opposed
completely
to what their
different-
constituency
Yeah.
What?
believes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, that's where you hope people go.
Yeah,
You hope
I
it.
don't-
Because I don't need you
there
to
is
be
no
super
government
smart.
like that.
I don't need you to be
It doesn't
super
exist.
smart because you can figure out all the people to get around you that could figure things out that you don't know. But I do need you to be loving and honest. If you are those things, then I'll trust that that the right decisions, you'll pick the right people around you to help you make those decisions. And their character will matter too. Because
This
you
is
can't
where-
do it all.
This is where I think Bertrand Russell has made a pretty incisive critique of democracy. And his critique is that democracy is founded upon something which is not true, according to Bertrand Russell, i.e. that everyone's opinion is equally as important as everyone else's opinion. And Bertrand Russell points out that's just not the way life is. Like, some people are more like experts in certain areas and are better qualified to decide on certain areas than others. But the sort of the democratic principle kind of evens out everything so that every single person has a kind of equal weighting. And that principle is taken as sacred. And Russell says, no, we should be ruled by experts, not by the masses. And I think that's where the Baha'i system actually, I think, corrects that problem in the sense that those who are elected, there's a democratic principle in that people on assemblies are elected. But once elected, because they're no longer beholden to a constituency, they're able to follow their own moral lights, they're able to follow the information that they gather and so forth. And they're able then to it's disconnected then in a way that the modern American political system is not disconnected. The rulers are not disconnected from those who elected them. They're like marionettes being pulled by the strings of their constituencies, who will just vote them out of office,
Or their lobbyists.
at the next, or the lobbyists or whatever, who will get them out of office if they don't like the decisions they're making. But in the Baha'i model, the idea is you don't want the position anyway, so it's not like anyone can hold any
You
threat
hope.
over you.
You hope.
Hopefully.
I think the
But
harder
also,
you
you're
go,
not like
the harder
beholden
it
to
is
your
not to
community.
win.
I mean, you're beholden to your own conscience, and I think that moves in the direction of addressing, I think, that critique that I've read Bertrand Russell make about democracy.
But that's where consultation is so crucial, because when it's bodies, if you are someone who's fallen into the trap of thinking that you should be elected again as a sign of your inherent nobility, or that you are spiritual enough, or that you're doing all the right things, that assembly should be saving you. That consultative process is the safeguard for you to ensure that your ego or your hubris is not taking us down the wrong path. That's, you gotta absolutely see it as your stop safe. Like
Yeah.
that's why it's there. It's for you.